Imagine saving $40,000 on a brand new home just by slashing a tax. Sound too good to be true? Well, it's actually part of Pierre Poilievre's plan to tackle Canada's current housing crisis. Stick around because in this video, we're going to dive into what this really means for future homeowners and whether or not it can actually make a difference. Hey guys, before we get started, just wanted to say thanks for watching. The support really does mean a lot. If you're interested in keeping on top of what's going on in the real estate market here in the Fraser Valley, and more specifically in towns like Surrey, Abbotsford, and Chilliwack, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any important news. Thanks for watching. Let's get into it. Okay, here's the scoop. Pierre Poilievre is the leader of Canada's Conservative Party, and one of the big platforms that he's running on for this next election is tackling Canada's affordability crisis when it comes to housing. In order to do this, he's promised to cut the federal GST on any new built homes priced under $1 million. In theory, this could be a huge cost saver, especially when you consider how out of control home prices have got over the last few years. Just as a quick example, if you're considering purchasing a home at $800,000, that could mean a savings of $40,000 right off the top immediately. That's a big chunk of change that could go towards things like your down payment, home renovations or upgrades, or even just making your monthly payments more manageable. But Poilievre isn't just stopping at the federal level. He wants the provinces to follow suit as well and cut their own taxes on new construction. So it's clear he's wanting a national shift here. All right, so how does he plan to pay for this tax cut? He said that he's going to fund it by scrapping certain liberal housing policies that are in place right now. An example of which is the Housing Accelerator Fund. And if you've never heard of that before, don't worry, you're not the only one. I don't feel like very many people at all have even heard of that fund. Anyways, what it was is basically a fund that was set up to speed up new construction in cities that make zoning adjustments to allow more homes. Something we're certainly seeing a lot of right now in Vancouver and the Fraser Valley. Additionally, he's looking at cutting something called the Housing Infrastructure Fund, which very simply sets aside $5 billion to support provincial and territorial housing projects. So what's the logic in slashing all of these current housing policies? Well, Poilievre believes that eliminating these programs will streamline the process and that the boost in home building created by his proposed tax cut will, over time, more than make up for the lost revenue in these programs he's considering slashing. Poilievre claims that more construction means more construction jobs, which means higher tax revenues. It's a classic less red tape equals more results sort of approach. So why focus on GST and why now? Poilievre has made it a point since he became Conservative leader to really go after the Liberal government on housing costs, which have soared since Trudeau took office in 2015. Home prices and rents have jumped aggressively, and it's clearly a hot button issue for many Canadians. The Conservatives argue that the current Liberal government's fees and taxes have played a big role in these rising costs. According to Poilievre, one of the highest costs tied to home ownership is the government itself. In a recent news conference, he emphasized that a significant part of home prices comes from bureaucratic costs, taxes, and gatekeepers. So by cutting the GST, he believes they're taking direct action to make houses more affordable. Of course, not everyone's on board. Housing Minister Fraser voiced major concerns over Poilievre's plan, especially when it comes to how these cuts will be paid for. Fraser argues that the programs that I just mentioned, like the Housing Accelerator Fund, are working and that cutting them might actually hurt lower and middle class income Canadians. He highlighted recent changes in zoning that have allowed for denser housing construction, saying that this type of progress might be lost without the funding from these programs. Fraser put it bluntly, and I'm going to read a paraphrased quote onto what he said here. He's worried that this plan could end up benefiting real estate investors and the investor class, who might already own several properties, rather than the average Canadian family just looking for a home. In his view, the government's current approach is targeting affordability by focusing on affordable and below market housing, rather than just broad tax cuts that could benefit wealthier individuals as well. Okay, so big question, will this tax cut actually help the average Canadian home buyer? If Poilievre's numbers hold, yes, it could make new homes more accessible by lowering the price barrier. And for builders especially, this might mean a spike in demand and potentially a wave of new projects, especially if provinces follow suit with their own tax cuts. For now, the Conservatives seem to be betting on this as a core issue. They've been leading the polls, and housing is one of the main concerns among Canadians today. This is likely an attempt to capture the frustration almost everyone feels towards housing costs and to show they're offering something new and something bold. So what do you think? Would this tax cut make homes more affordable? Or is it just another political promise? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you want more breakdowns like this. Until next time, I'm Matt, and I'm bringing you down to earth.